Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. Today I would like to present a bit of a gem hiding in plain sight. It's been not really hiding for the past 30 years, but I guess with internet, Chrono24 and all the websites, it's a lot easier now to access certain models which have only been sold on a certain market, in this case Japan. And no, this is not a Speedmaster Reduced. If it was, you wouldn't have the date, and the subdials would be more like this. It would look more like a mini moon watch. Here we have the professional model. No, here what we have is an Omega Speedmaster date, reference 3511.50, 3511, while the Speedmaster Reduced will be a 3510, and while the outside can be somewhat similar, the format certainly, and the bracelet, the insides are very different. So inside of this we have a Valjoux 7750, which can also carry a day along with the date, but here Omega only keeps the date. It's an integrated chronograph, as you would know, and so the pushers are aligned, unlike the Speedmaster Reduced, which is using time only, time and date, 2892 base from ETA, on top of which Omega uses Dubois de Prat module for the chronograph. So the pushers are not aligned with the crown, and they would be sitting higher, which is far less elegant. The Reduced is a nice watch. It's meant to look a lot more like the big dog, the moon watch, but obviously the subdials are pushed very much to the side. Enough talking about the Reduced. What we want to talk about is the Speedmaster date, and here we have a version only sold in Japan. This dial configuration, and this is maybe why you haven't noticed it before. Very few videos about it. There was just actually an article on Fratello about the watch, very positive article, and as soon as I became aware of the watch, actually I hadn't read the article, somebody sent it to me afterwards. I knew I had to have it. It's one of those things, as I said, hiding in plain sight, and then you realize it's there, and the price is good, and you jump on it. These trade between 1200 to say 3000 US. Usually the ones that made it to the Western world, to Europe and US, will be around the 3000 US dollar mark, while in Japan you can still find them well below the 2000s in various degrees of quality. Of course, these are 30-year-old watches, so there will be some damage on many of them, but some of the damage actually is very pleasant. So you have really almost a vintage, neo-vintage certainly type of watch with a lot of charm, and I love this dial configuration. There are other ones without. This one is a reverse panda. Most of the ones you're going to find when you do a search on a Speedmaster date will have subdials color-coded to the dial, and a frame quite often around the window, which dates the watch quite a lot, which is a problem with many of the Omega watches. I think Omega's best answer to Rolex's timeless designs is usually carried under the Speedmaster Speedy Pro, which you can pick anyone from any year, it will always look timeless. And here I think they've achieved that with this dial configuration. Unlike on the other dial configurations that I have seen, there are some blue ones, some white ones, all black ones as well. That frame around the window makes it look very dated. The one here, very special, and what makes it even more special is that the Tritium lume has faded. I was quite surprised actually. I had never realized that the Tritium would still glow at night, and I realized that sleeping with the watch because I love to enjoy my watches all the time, even when I sleep. Then I realized, damn, I can read the time even on those quite crummy hands. Let me zoom on them. You see the lume material has deteriorated on the hands, while on the indices it has that beautiful patina now, but it still is legible at night, and actually all through the night. I was very surprised about that. Obviously it's not a flashlight like a Seiko diver, but it's still very usable. And since I am zoomed in, appreciate all the details, the slightly sunken in date, the font used on the 5-minute increment scale, which is the same font as you see on the subdials, which have a concentric pattern to them. You have the minute register, the hour register, black hands to indicate the recording of the minutes and the hours, and also you have a black hand on the running seconds, 60 seconds register. Classic configuration of the Valjoux 7750 uni-winding, unidirectional winding. So when you shake it, you'll feel the spin. A lot of people will mention that in the comments. Honestly, as you wear it, I've just worn it the whole weekend. I've never even noticed once. Maybe at night when it's really quiet, if you raise your hand quickly or something, you might hear the rotor or feel it, but I've hardly felt it, to be honest. I think the writing is kept to a minimum, and yeah, the overall styling of the whole dial to me is just wonderful. On the side you have an hexagonal crown, very easy to grip. It is not screwed down. Okay, I'm not sure what the water resistance you can expect on this one. I don't think it has been serviced. It's still running pretty good within 5 seconds a day, but I think it's going to need at some point some attention. It's a very common movement, so very easy to service, to find someone who can service it. Probably I should say, unlike that modular movement into the reduced Speedy, which is gonna cost more to service. And so this one here, I mean, these are tanks. It was meant to power the whole industry of relatively affordable chronographs. So it can run, if the watch hasn't been, if you find a mint one, I'm sure it's going to run still very good, like the day it was put inside the watch. Otherwise, easy to service. Since I'm talking about the movement, so the winding is a bit grimy, typical of that Valjoux. It's never really pleasant, but if you wear it's a self-winding watch, so if you wear it every day, every couple of days, you never have to use the crown. I'll show you the pusher. And before I continue, I'm sure some of you will have noticed that the seconds hand is bent to the left. Clearly bent to the left. It's not an illusion of the sapphire crystal, which, by the way, is one of my favorite details, as it's rounded and perfectly aligned with the bezel. One of those details that make a watch even more special. But look at that second hand, clearly bent. So that's one thing I might have to address, but it's kind of cute. So no problem with the pusher, nice and soft, but with a positive action to it, and the reset here. I've used the chronograph actually a few times during the weekend because I was cooking, and I was also timing my kids running across the playground. It's been running great, but one time I did notice that the minute register wasn't moving. Only one time. So maybe that's a sign that it's a bit long in the teeth. I don't stress about those things. When I buy something used, I know it's used. Some people, buy something used from me, and they worry about service or hairline scratch and things like that. And I'm like, I always tell them, if you want it new, go to the shop, buy it new, you know, or find a new old stock. This is used, and this one here has been used for 30 years. So just know what you buy, right? Ask if it's been serviced or not. That at least you know, and you price that into the price, and decide if it's the right price or not. Don't complain afterwards if you get a great deal that it doesn't run just like a brand new watch. So no issue there for me, and same for the scratches. I think it gives a lot of it gives a good vibe to the watch. I would avoid buying one that's been over polished. I don't think this one has ever been polished. You can see the lyre lugs here. Yeah, when you zoom in here, you'll see a lot of little scratches, but as you wear the watch, you don't feel it. And the overall vibe is that vintage vibe you get when you handle a 5-digit Rolex, for example. Really wonderful vintage vibes of this watch, and a great refinement in the way this particular dial has been put together, and the overall watch, which is actually very slim. So the dimensions, 39 millimeters, perfect, by 13.5, 13.6, with a generously domed sapphire crystal. The underbelly is very small, so it will disappear into the wrist. So really the watch, because of the construction of the cases of Omega, it looks extremely slim on the wrist, surprisingly slim. You will be surprised when you pick up this watch. It really wears like if it was 11 millimeters really in thickness. I've shown you the crown, which is signed, which is beautiful, easy to grip. I can also show you, this is where you set the date. Don't worry, it's 11 in the morning, so I can change the date. And you have the stop seconds function. This is how you set the time. Okay. And usually on a Valjoux, when you set the time, you would want to go 10 minutes beyond and back. Let's say if I want to set it at the 30-minute, and then you re-engage, and then the minute hand, in this case it jumped a little bit. Every watch is a bit different, but usually with a Valjoux, this is the way to get the minute hand to re-engage immediately. Otherwise it can be a little lag, and you're going to miss the next the next minute marker. And at the first position, you have the quick set date, which is yeah, very crisp on this watch. Everything really good. Actually, let me put the hand a bit away. So there you go. You have something more pleasant to look at. Now let's move on to the back of the watch. You have the hippocampus, Speedmaster, and you have the serial number. Someone was saying, hey, in my unboxing video, no papers. Well, you know, it's 30 years old. What is a 30-year-old warranty going to do for me? It's always great to have the box and the papers, although the box on these is going to be completely destroyed usually by just the by the time. But the warranty papers, I mean, it's just going to confirm the same serial number, and obviously the warranty is void. I'd rather find a watch that I like and enjoy it, and actually not have to store those papers somewhere and have to worry about it. There's something freeing about a watch without its papers and its bloody box. I quite like it, even if it's an expensive watch. Some people want the whole thing. You know, you gotta again price it. You know, include that into the pricing of the watch and decide for yourself what you want. I think this watch has had a long life, and the papers really don't matter all that much. It's a nice extra. If you want to find something with the full set, you'll pay more, and that's all. But I'd rather, for the same quality of the watch, I'd get the one without the whole thing for a watch of this age, because it doesn't matter. It's not exactly a Patek Philippe either, but who knows, these might increase in price. And yeah, one of the reasons why I bought it is because it's so good. I'm actually gonna perhaps buy a second or even a third one, because I'm really really loving this watch. It has reignited a bit of the passion in me, you know, these days with the whole drag. Every day I get an email from someone explaining to me their horrendous experience at a Rolex 80, and we all talk about money, crazy prices. A watch like this comes and reignites your passion for watches, and you realize, and I realize, that there are many Omega models that I have that I had not considered, that maybe I saw once or twice and I didn't really look at close enough. And actually, you could make an amazing Omega collection without even having the grand classics, the Seamaster Professional and the Speedy. There's a lot more to Omega, and they're quite playful, and they have a variety of watches and a great history, and some of their reissues are really interesting, like the museum pieces. Back to the watch, the bracelet, very 90s, kind of Jubilee-like, with a polished center link, very good looking. You would find something similar on the Speedmaster, albeit larger. So here we have 18mm with tapering down to 16, with a clasp being 18. Good looking clasp, but it's a press clasp, but very solid press, actually kind of hard to pry open, with a lot of anchoring points. So I didn't even have to fiddle with the pins there. You can just choose your anchoring, and yeah, barely any stretch. Doesn't make much noise. It does pinch the wrist hair quite a lot. You might find some hair stuck there in it, and I have quite hairy wrists. And before I forget, I'll give you a little wrist shot, since we're talking about my hairy wrist. And it's weird, it's at certain times of the days, for some reason, that it pinches my hair more than at other times. So we're a bit close, so the watch will look a lot smaller from a distance. Actually very small for me. 39mm like this with those lugs looks smaller than some other 29mm from Rolex, for example. But as you can see, very slim on the wrist. I will include a shot from a distance, but just perfect from close up like this, which is how you see the watch yourself. Just a perfect combination on the wrist. But from a distance, on my 17cm wrist, it almost looks small. It looks very vintage, which is the look you would want, the look you would get from a vintage Daytona, the most valuable watches these days. And I think this compares quite favorably to those Valjoux as well, powered, different Valjoux, of course, manual wind Rolex Daytonas. If you can't really afford a $1 million Daytona, maybe this is the ticket for you. It's obviously as they say, a strap monster. Easy to find 18mm straps that will go wonderfully with this, or maybe a parachute strap or a NATO strap. The leather will look great. Anything looks fantastic, I think, with a Speedy. So maybe I will accessorize. For now, I'm trying to get on with this. At some point I will have no hair left if I wear it for a week or two, so it will be nice. And it's a good looking bracelet, although it's polished. It's one of those polished bracelets that looks good. Now, these watches were produced for about 8 to 9 years, 91 to 98. So until 95 you had a modified Valjoux, which was gold plated and had 17 jewels, and then it was updated in 95 to a rhodium plating, and with the addition of 8 jewels. I think the very late models will have Luminova markers, so they won't be faded like this, but they will be slightly more potent at night. Although, as I said, you can still see the tritium at night, even after it has faded, even on those hands. I'm going to try to get one of the later models, and we will do a comparison. So there you go, one little detail you might have noticed. So the bezel is, the inscriptions on the bezels are lacquer filled, black lacquer. And many of these watches will have a lot of the lacquer chipped off, gone. Here, actually, I picked this one up because it was looking very good. But you might notice there is, look at it popping. You see here, Lucky 7. It feels like somebody scratched it on purpose to have a sort of a Lucky 7 on the watch. Very cool detail. So there you go. That's a bit everything I wanted to say at this point about the watch. It really been a great pleasure to find, to discover, to wear on the wrist for a few days already. Definitely a keeper, definitely a watch that I would recommend wholeheartedly. Something that's been overlooked for too long. Most of them are still in Japan, so you can find them on, for example, Chrono24, or maybe you're a bit more resourceful and you can find them on other websites from Japan. So let me know in the comments how you feel about the watch. What do you think? Are you as surprised as I am by how slim and beautiful and how wonderful this dial configuration is? And well, maybe I've inspired a couple of you. Obviously, you know, these days you make a video and a few people see it, and a few watches get sold, and maybe prices go a bit higher. That's I don't think I have the kind of reach that big channels have. So this is a bit of a secret between you and I, my dear viewers. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation of the Omega Speedmaster date. I think very refined, beautifully presented watch that puts a smile on my dial, as Archie would say. And before I go, quick comparison to the big brother. This is the 1861 powered Speedy Pro, so a larger watch, but you can see it's from the same family. This bracelet, very smooth, very comfortable. Can compare with the Speedmaster Racing that I have as well, a lot more modern. It has all the bells and whistles, coaxial, silicone hairspring and whatnot, with the date at 6 o'clock. Obviously the different position for the subdials. A playful take on the Speedmaster, but quite a lot thicker. You see what I mean when I said this one is very elegant. You feel quite a big difference on the Speedy Racing here. And why not compare with the recently released Seiko Speed Timer. I mean, for the price, for, you know, $1,200 to $1,500, I would really go for this. Really impossible to be disappointed by such a beautiful watch, and Omega quality. It's gonna last forever. All right, guys, thank you so much for staying with me, watching my presentation, and I wish you a great day. Bye bye.